So I'm heading over here where the trees are, and I'll find a nice comfy space where hopefully, what's that? Something weird in there. So hopefully it's dry enough for me to sit down. We'll see. Just over there. Keep going. It's always interesting looking for a place to paint because you've got a few things to think about. Where you're going to sit is the one. I used to carry a little stool, but the problem I had with that is because it's on uneven ground, it used to break. It's no good. The other thing I have to think about is the glare, and you have to think about that even if you've got a sketchbook and paints. The glare onto your surface, you don't want that either. So a nice big tree is what I like. Sit next to a nice big tree. We'll find a nice place around here anyway. I know a few places. I like painting in the woods, so it's always good. Hello, so here we are in the woods. I've got my my little tablet at the ready and my pen. I'm gonna have a go at sketching at the you can't really see the scene over there, those trees, and hopefully it doesn't rain. I'm sat on a plastic bag and I've got waterproof trousers on to stop my bottom from getting soggy. Little artist tip there. Anyway, I'll see how this goes, and I'm going to enjoy this. So I'm nicely sat down and ready for sketching. So if you've seen my other episode, I'm not sure if you haven't, what I'll tell you is I've made Photoshop as simple as possible. Because we're just, we're out sketching, I don't want the tools to take over. So basically I've got a grey background, which I see as my grey paper or card or canvas or whatever, and then I've got one brush which I use at different sizes. Just imagine you've got a pack of brushes and then you bring out different sizes. And then I do most of it on one layer, and then in a way of saving it to a fashion I create another layer and carry on. But you could do all this on one layer, and I don't want this to get any more complex than it needs to be. So what I'm doing is I started off with just greens and just squinting my eyes and looking at the colours that I can see, and then try and copy that colour on here by moving this around, and then going for it. I always start a little bit messy because I don't know how to start. There's so much there, so much to see. Where do you start? Well, you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? So I just start throwing in colours and then work it out as I go. I'm one of those painters that paints quite messy in a sense, and then bring it back as I go. Well, hopefully, anyway. So I'm looking at the trees in front of me. There's two trees there, one behind the other, and then there's that one, and then there's another one next to that that's a different colour. So I'm trying to go with the colours that I can see, and then I can just look at the overall colour without thinking about the highlights and the shadows now. I'm just going for the overall colour, and then I can add in the highlights and shadows on top, like another layer. Imagine that the something else I imagine when I'm painting like this, I'm imagining it drying. You could tell I've done a lot of traditional painting. I have to imagine in my own head that it's dried, and then I can carry on. Because when I first started doing painting on the computer like this, all the time I'd be trying to smudge it with my finger. And they were like, oh no, it's not working. Because it doesn't work, it's a screen. And then when I'm painting, I would think, oh, I want to undo that. And I'd be like, well, where's the keyboard? Oh, I can't undo it. So I have the opposite problem. So I'm just changing the size of the brush, and I've got a blue, a light blue, because I want to get some sky in there. You see all these dots of light in amongst the trees and in amongst the leaves that are breaking through. And have a look at that when you're painting trees. You'll see all these lights shining through, and especially when you're painting in the forest as well. You'll see areas where you can actually still see the sky, and you're best off putting that light in. It really brings a painting to life doing that added bit of realism. And luckily I'm looking at real life. So I've got no excuse really to miss things like that. But it's something I never really noticed until I started getting out there and painting. It's not something I'd think of. I would never think, oh, make sure I put the light in where the leaves and the trees are not blocking the sky. Make sure that's in there. So I noticed these branches were really dark in comparison, so I went for the darker colour. I just use the same colour and just go darker. Just imagine if you were mixing the paint, you just put a little bit of brown and blue in with a colour or something. So then I'm adding a bit of the bark texture with that dark. Because this is a tablet and I've not got a keyboard plugged in while I'm doing it, it does bring up that long screen so you can type things in, or you can write your thing in that bit. So I'm just putting that shadow in, and I'm looking at all the different branches. It's a funny thing, the way we look at stuff. Because I've always, when I look at things, my mind automatically edits stuff out. So like these branches that I'm putting in now, when I look, I would see the main tree trunks and the leaves, and a lot of these branches I wouldn't even see. Sounds weird to say that, but it's true. There's loads of stuff I wouldn't have seen unless I sat there and studied it like this. That's why they call these studies, because you're studying nature. You're studying what you're going to do. Like this painting, maybe you wanted to take this painting further in back in the studio, maybe you could print it out and then paint it with oils or something, and it gives you a good start of how you want it to look. It gives you the realism and the colouring and things, the abstract nature of nature, because it does look all over the place. And when you're designing stuff, I find it's very difficult to design that kind of mess. I mean, it's a beautiful mess. I love being in the woods. I think it's amazing. It's magical and beautiful, and I'm very happy when I'm out there painting away. Whether I'm using a sketchbook or using a tablet, either way, I'm enjoying myself. I'm enjoying using this tablet because I've always wanted to get out there with one of these, because I've seen other artists doing it, and I thought, oh, I'd love to have a go at that. That looks great fun. And never thought I'd be able to afford it, but now I've got this bargain. I can do it. So there's like a bit of mossy stuff on the tree, and it's picking up the light. So that's what that is there. It's reflecting that light. It's not a sun-drenched day, as you could see in the video. It's not bright. It was quite, grey. A little bit of blue sky here and there, but mostly grey because of all the rain that's in the sky at the moment. I kind of flick the pen a little bit. Kind of flick it when I do this. I don't even think about it. I just do it. I'm just thinking leaves. And I pick. Once I've got my colour down, I pick it and then I change things. If you're learning colour, this is a great way of learning. Getting out there and just observing and painting. I think it's fantastic. I'm putting in the dark underneath the ivy leaves. It was really dark under there. I thought I should have added a bit of blue to it, because it has like a greeny blue colour. And I thought, well, I'll just throw that on top, and some of that dark will show. Not all of it, but some of it. That colour is so different to the colour of the rest, so it does stand out a bit. Well, not stand out, it's different. There's a variety of greens out there in the woods. It's not all the same green, so it's good to this is a really good way to practice your greens. Now I was looking at this tree in the foreground and I was trying to work out what colour it was, and it's sort of a warm reddish brown. So I started filling that in. Excuse me, very tired. I've got the yawning going. I do early mornings at work, so when it gets to about 6-7 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like night time for me. So I'm picking up some more of this warm reddy colour, because some of the light is hitting each side of the tree, sort of wraps round and doesn't quite reach the front of it that's facing us. So I just put that bit of light there. To be honest, that colour is almost right. It's not perfect. And I'm not going with perfection anymore. I don't want to. I like to just relax and paint, and that's it. I've taken the stress of perfection out of my artwork now. Because I used to think it always has to be perfectly correct, everything needs to be right. But the problem is, if you do behave in that way when you're painting, you can end up with a very stiff looking picture without, it loses its fluidity, its it's sort of natural elegance. That's just my thoughts, really. My thoughts on my own work. As you're doing your own painting, you should try doing something like this. If you've done a lot of stiff looking pictures and you followed a system or something, try just doing this. Just getting out there or setting something up and just going for it. Just go for the painting. Just see what you can do. So I'm just putting a bit of that blue for the shadow bits. Changing back to the tree colour. Got a little bit too samey, that did. I needed, what I really needed was a darker colour than that I used. Didn't quite get a good colour there either, did I? I was just sort of flooding that area with colour now. If you wanted, you don't have to use a grey background. You can use any colour as your canvas. You can even on Photoshop bring in textures and paint on that. And some artists bring in like paintings and things and all sorts and start their work that way. It's not the way I like, but it works for some people. I think for me, I like to keep things simple. I don't like to overthink anything. If I start overthinking it, then that's it, and it's game over for me. I need to keep things easy and simple. So I put in my dark there, so my light shows. Simple. So putting in some leaves. What I do with leaves, because when you look at them, they go all over the place, all different angles, and I'm not going to paint every single leaf that I see because, you know, there's millions upon millions of them. So what I do is I go for the overall picture of it, the overall shapes that I see, and then and just go with it. It's funny because sometimes I think when you're painting, your mind can kind of have X-ray vision in a sense, because your brain is editing stuff out all the time, and because our eyes look in spots, so we're seeing spots, and then our eye moves and we look at another spot and then look at another spot. We're editing stuff out all the time. We're building the picture in our own mind as we look around the environment. So I think sometimes our eyes are a bit tricky. I did that and then I thought, oh, that's going to be a bit awkward to paint around, so I might just save my file, which is what I've done. I save it, realise I haven't got a keyboard, so I just save it as untitled number 1. And then I undo what I did, turn the background layer into just a normal layer, and then use the layer above now. It's almost like saving what's behind. So yeah, it's me saving it untitled. So now I start going again. And I thought, oh, I might as well start blocking this area in as well with some green. It's interesting the kind of effects you get in that woods, because you're getting all kinds of greens and browns and things, and just it just gets a bit overwhelming, to be honest. So just stay calm and carry on. Just work in layers and stages, and just carry on, and eventually you always get something. Just bear with yourself, give yourself a chance, because if you've never done outdoor painting before, whether it's on the computer or in a sketchbook, you're going to need time to get used to it, and you need to give yourself that time. And don't worry if your picture doesn't come out very good. It doesn't matter, it's a study. Just give yourself that opportunity. That's the way I'm thinking when I'm doing these. I'm giving myself the opportunity to learn, and above all, enjoy it. I'm enjoying myself. So I'm looking for those colours that I've already used, and then use it in other areas. I've done quite a big painting in this kind of way before, in oil paints, so I've kind of got the mind to doing these leaves, so I've done them quite a lot. But just think of them as in lots of little marks, all in different angles, and sometimes you get them in look at that big blob. Because I haven't got a keyboard attached, I have to go on that each time on the edit. So I'm doing little dots because there's little highlights that you can see, but they're quite far away, so the smaller the brush, technically, the further away it is. Well, it makes it seem that way anyway. So I'm putting in those bits of light that you can see in that side. Another blob. So what I plan on doing is taking my tablet into cities as well, and start doing some architectural sketches, and maybe do some old buildings and things. street scenes. Let's see what I can do. So if you are interested in that sort of thing, don't forget to subscribe and press that bell so you can see more. I'm excited at the idea because I couldn't work out a way to film myself out and about with my sketchbook. I just couldn't work it out. There's too many problems, too much stuff I'd have to carry. So I thought, this is perfect. It's pretty much how I would paint anyway. It's just on a computer. I could paint this in gouache or acrylics, no problem. And if you like this idea, then you know you could do it too. There's a bit of light that hits this tree trunk. This is a bit of a wonky tree that comes in front of that one. So if you notice, I pick colours that are around that I've already used, and that's because those colours are there in reality, and also it keeps your palette unified, because it's very easy to do loads of different colours and a palette of millions of colours, and it is fun to do that if you can control your colours, that is. But in this area there's only so much, and you kind of have to edit it to how you want it, of course. I'm sure if you set 10 artists up in that woods, all in a line, all looking at the same scene, you would see 10 completely different paintings. And their eyes would have picked up areas that they thought was more important than what I did. And we're all different, we all have our own ideas and our own tastes, and it's good that that happens, because you don't want every painter to be the same, do you? So I'm looking at this bottom part, and it's quite a block of like brambles and nettles and all sorts of stuff. So I was thinking, how am I going to do this? There's so much. How am I going to edit it to what it is? And I just started doing like little lines and things at the bottom there, and there is twigs and all sorts stuck up, and I couldn't quite think of how I was going to do it. And then I started noticing this tree, what I'm doing now. It was quite dark. It had all these ivy leaves growing off it, so I thought, oh, I better do that. And then when I did that, I realised all I need to do is block it all in dark where the undergrowth is, and then I can put leaves. I can put all the leaves on top of that, and then my light will show up. But already that looks better. That started to look like undergrowth, looks like it. So I'm just changing the size of the brush. See, I've not used any different brushes. I've used the same gouache brush as there's a gouache brush that's in Photoshop. So if you've got Photoshop, you can just use it. If you're not using Photoshop and you're using something else, then use whatever brush you like using. Like I said, I'm trying to keep this as simple and easy as possible. So I used a simple brush that I quite like. I like the texture of it because it looks a bit like paint. So there was a mosquito bothering me at this point. I had to, I blobbed some green there. I had to use the pen, and I was going to get rid of it, because I don't like killing them. I don't like killing nature. So I've got these plants in my garden, these pheasant's eye plants. I've grown from seed, and they take about a month to germinate. And I had a load of them growing, and I went out to check them yesterday morning, and they've all gone. A big fat horrible slug ate them all. They took over a month to germinate, and it wiped them out overnight. And if I found that slug, I'd give it a good telling off, but I wouldn't kill it. I like nature. I tend to move snails. It's like when I had nasturtiums growing, big ones everywhere, and then cabbage white butterflies landed on them and covered them with caterpillars. So what I would do, instead of spraying them or chucking water over them or whatever people do, I just took the leaf that they were all on and took it round to the bottom of the garden and put it there. And there was a few other nasturtiums growing there, which I don't mind because they're around the corner, and they just went on them and devoured them instead of my other ones. So I'm building up the undergrowth here using different greens, but that's really starting to turn into a woods now. You can imagine this in the background of like Bambi, because you do get deer around here actually. I did see some a couple of times. So I'm adding in a bit more that whitey blue light that you can see through. Adds a bit of depth into things. Putting a few more of these leaves in. Looking at the overall effect at this point. Starting to question whether I'll be able to stand up or not. Because when you sat on the floor on like quite hard ground, my legs, they tend to go numb. So I'm adding in a few of these bramble tops, using that nice bright green, showing the fresh growth. So I thought I'll show a few of those, because you can see a few that are just topping the undergrowth, some of the fresh growth that's coming out. But who'd have thought, it's only over half an hour and there's a whole forest there. And you could keep this going, you could take it further and further and get the more detail if you wanted, or you could add more of the shadow and lights and things. And I'm getting quite happy with how it was looking, and I was just seeing if there was anything I missed that was important, and I noticed some of these dark branches and trees in the background that I didn't put in. And I was like, oh, well, I can see them. I'll put them in. They're quite important, really. Get them going in front of that tree. And they go all over the place. When you start looking at all the branches, You start realising there's absolutely millions. I was hoping there was a blackbird round the corner, which made a bit of a funny noise when I got to this area, on the way to this area. I was hoping it was going to come round here, or one of the other birds was, and then I was going to quickly sketch it into the painting, but they never did. So I just went with what I've got. I was looking around at the different leaves in front of some of the trees that I didn't put in, so I thought I'd put them in. Putting in a few of those leaves there. But yeah, like I said, I'm really enjoying doing these, and I am going to do some more. I'm going to do some more difficult ones, more challenging ones, so I hope you enjoyed this one. Hopefully you'll enjoy the future episodes as well. And, just going into a bit more of that warm colour. Do a little JB. And I can save that out. So I've just finished my sketching on the Slate 7. I'm so proud of this, mainly because I can now go outside and sketch on the computer, and I have even less to carry, even less, and I can record the screen. It's exciting because then I can make these videos. I've enjoyed doing that. Yeah, I'm really enjoying doing this, really enjoying it. Now I'm going to try and get up because my legs would have gone to sleep. Well, thanks very much for watching this video. Hope you learned something. I hope I said something good when I did my voiceover, because you never know. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in another one. Cheers, bye.